Debates matter. We all saw it 74 days ago right here on CNN when one debate completely upended this presidential race, and the stakes are just as high in different ways for tomorrow night because in some states, early voting starts in just 11 days, which means that debate stage will likely be the candidates' last chance to make their case to those all-important undecided voters. It will also be the first time Donald Trump and Kamala Harris meet, literally. The vice president talked about the big night in a taped interview with the Ricky Smiley Morning Show that aired earlier today.
He plays from this really old and tired playbook, right? Where there's no floor for him in terms of how low he will go. And we should be prepared for that. We should be prepared for the fact that he is not burdened by telling the truth. And we should be prepared for the fact that he is probably going to speak a lot of untruth.
CNN's Jeff Zeleny is here with us now from Doylestown, Pennsylvania, one of those critical collar counties around Philadelphia. Bucks County, what are you hearing from voters there, Jeff?
Dana, there is no doubt there will be a global audience on this debate, but it is the voters here in Pennsylvania, really across the Commonwealth, that are perhaps the most important audience of all here, as Vice President Harris and Donald Trump do have their very first meeting. We know that because look at the spending. There is no battleground state that has seen more advertising spending, some $157 million. Democrats have a slight edge on that, but Republicans also spending more than $70 million here. So look, the backdrop of this is a very, very tight race. The vice president has been preparing all weekend long for 5 days in Pittsburgh, the western part of the state. I'm told she has one objective overall: to still introduce herself to some voters who may be exhausted at the notion of a second Donald Trump presidency, but also who are not sure about her. So to fill in some of those gaps and also to be seen as the candidate of change. For Donald Trump, of course, he wants to tie her to the Biden administration. So talking to voters as they begin to tune in, there's a bit of a sense of exhaustion as well. Of course, they've been living and breathing this debate for a very long time on television with candidate visits. But the head-to-head contest tomorrow evening in Philadelphia here certainly is likely one of the biggest final moments of this debate. So voters certainly will be tuning in, paying attention, because they know that once they vote, they can tune out some of those advertisements that have just been deluging them here. But there is no doubt a big moment, and the slice of undecided voters, they are still out there. Sometimes they seem as though they're unicorns. They are out there. So that is what both Harris and Trump are going after tomorrow night, Dana.
I absolutely do not think that you see real-life unicorns. They exist. I believe that, Jeff Zeleny. Thanks for your great reporting, as always. I'm joined now here at the table by other fantastic reporters: CNN's Manu Raju, The Washington Post's Leanne Caldwell, and CNN's Isaac Dovere. Hello, everybody.
Nice to see you.
Debate Eve. Isaac, you talk often to Harris campaign officials and people in her orbit. What's the latest that you are hearing about how she's feeling inside debate camp?
Look, they have been preparing for this debate since before the Biden and Trump debate. And of course, it was originally geared to be a vice presidential debate, a kind of launch into a 2028 campaign. This has been something that they've worked on. They want her to come across as her, as a normal human being. That's a big part of the thinking here, but also as strong and confident, not going through different policy positions like Joe Biden tried to do, but tripping Trump up whenever she can, letting Trump trip whenever she can make that happen, and then just making herself presented to the American people as someone that they can see as president. We can forget almost just how little most people know about her. Of course, we're all paying so much attention to her, but this is other than the interview that she did with you, Dana, she has not had an unscripted moment since she became the Democratic nominee for president.
Yeah, and there's a poll out this weekend asking that very question. Do you feel like you need to learn more? Kamala Harris, 28%, Donald Trump, 9%. As we were joking, like, who are the 9% who don't know all about Donald Trump? Kamala Harris makes a little bit more sense since she's a relatively new candidate at the top of the ticket. Manu, I do want to talk about the way Donald Trump has been preparing for this debate. Not so much about the sort of mechanics of it and the informality of it and all of the things that we have told. But what he is saying on the stump and on his social media platform, he's going back to election denialism, threatening voters, threatening poll workers, both past and present and future, talking about mail-in ballots being fraudulent, which I'm sure that really thrills the people who are trying to win Pennsylvania for him. But then also this truth, cease and desist. I, together with many attorneys and legal scholars, am watching the sanctity of the 2024 presidential election very closely because I know better than most the rampant cheating skullduggery that has taken place by the Democrats in the 2020 presidential election. Those involved in unscrupulous behavior will be sought out, caught, prosecuted at levels unfortunately never seen before in our country. If I'm a swing voter, well, first of all, we should also say, just for the record, there is no evidence that what he said is true. It went through in 2020, all of the courts, including Trump-appointed judges. They did not see any evidence, nor is there evidence yet that anything that he is suggesting will happen will in this election. But going back to sort of the politics of this particular argument, do you know any swing voters who hear this and say, oh, okay, so I better vote for Donald Trump?
Yeah, I mean, this is the reason why that Harris wanted the microphones unmuted, because he could say things like this and pop off in ways that will make him look unelectable to a lot of voters who want to move on past the 2020 elections. The challenge for Trump is going to try to make Harris look like someone who's going to be a continuation of the last several years, and that he can actually represent a serious change to something completely, totally different. Because voters in that New York Times CNN poll made clear they are tired of the status quo. They're tired of 61% want to break from Joe Biden, but they don't necessarily want to go back to all the chaos from the Trump years and all the things that he's been saying. So can Harris draw out Trump to say things like that will undercut his credibility in the eyes of those swing voters? That is something that Joe Biden was not able to do in the last debate, what Harris wants to change.
And I don't want to just for 1 second set aside the politics of this and just talk about the danger of what I just read and what the former president continues to do. We saw it bear out on January 6th. We talked about this book that I co-authored, which I wish I knew a lot more about what happened in 1872 in this country before I covered the 2020 election, because when you sow the seeds of doubt and when you threaten people who are supposed to be in charge of counting votes, it has real life impact and potentially could lead to violence.
Absolutely, Dana. It's twofold. It's the intimidation factor that you just talked about. The people who are working at the polls, the elected officials, what's happening in Georgia, how Donald Trump is trying to persuade the new Georgia election board to move forward with these pretty draconian rules, and what the Republican governor is going to do there. But it also has to do with the people who do support him. Donald Trump has successfully and effectively convinced a large portion of the American public that the last election was stolen. He is trying to already do the same again. It's because he is scared. He does not like to see what he sees in the polls. He has done this in every single election he has run in, 2016, 2020, and he's doing it again in 2024. It's the same old playbook. It had consequences in 2020, and it could very well have consequences in 2024.
Kamala Harris wants nothing more than for him to say the election was stolen.
And I want to pick up on some of your reporting about what's happening in the Harris camp. And I want you to listen to what Pete Buttigieg said. He actually helped her prepare for her debate against Vice President Pence in 2020, debated against her in the primaries.
It will take almost superhuman focus and discipline to deal with Donald Trump in a debate. It's no ordinary proposition. Not because Donald Trump is a master of explaining policy ideas and how they're going to make people better off. It's because he's a master of taking any form or format that is on television and turning it into a show that is all about him.
So when Harris is up on stage, she will be facing Donald Trump in a way that she has never faced anyone quite, right? I reported years ago that when she was preparing to run in 2019, her team then asked her what she would have done if she'd been in the debate with Hillary, in the Hillary Clinton spot where Trump was stalking around behind her, and she said that she would turn around and say to him, "Why are you being so weird?" Right?
So she was the one who came up with weird.
She was there in 2018 was when that conversation happened. But they've never met before. The dynamics are strange. Trump, they're strange no matter what the debate is. Trump is an unpredictable character in a lot of the things that he could do. This is part of why they want the mics to be unmuted. We'll see what happens with that. So far, they will stay muted. But Harris's job here is to make Trump look unelectable and like the person that Americans won't want to have back. We'll see if she can do that.